on Kamilla Singh's show today, we're going to be talking something very different today. The reason being, we always bring the guest and talk about issues. But now, I think from now onward, Kamilla Singh's show will be a political arena that we will be discussing the issues that have impact all of us. But before we go there, we want to recognize that we are on unceded territorial of First Nations of Musqueam, Silvertooth, and Kwantlen. We are grateful that the first people of this land has allowed we immigrants to be sharing the land so that we can do what we would like to do. And with me now, we might as well go ahead and introduce the guest. My guest on my left is Dipender Dimple Jaswal. And with her is the teacher from LA Madison School, Annie Ohana. Both of them women have been on the show before, and we have discussed many different issues. But today we are, like I said, we're going to take it in a different route. We're going to talk about what's happening around us and how is that impacting our mental health. So welcome both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Nice that you came together and you both will be sitting on the panel and talk about some of the issues. So when I was trying to bring both of you, I thought something different. I said, you know what, we need to have a political panel in here to give our views.
Yeah.
And so today there's a lot of things that are happening in Surrey, all over Metro Vancouver. And the first thing that I was going to talk about is the gas price. So let's take on and talk about the gas price. People are not slowing. It's not that the gas price has gone up and we all stopped driving. No, we haven't stopped driving. We're still pumping the same gas. And because some people don't have no choice, then to drive because they have to drop their kids to school, from one school to another school to job, and then bring them, come back at 3 o'clock and pick the kids again. So there is no choice that we all can park the car in the at home and take the public transportation. That is not an option for a lot of people. What do you say on that?
I agree. I mean, the gas prices are, rising. I've heard people even now starting to go into the States again to pour gas just to keep their bills down in that aspect. And for individuals like myself who are have children, going to activities, going to work, doing other various activities in the community, to keep up those costs are very, very difficult right now.
And we know it's impacting nonprofits as well, a lot of different organizations that rely on delivering food different places or just like delivering things, right? Supplies to people that might be in lower socioeconomic brackets. That's impacting them as well. I think to me, it's a really big red flag. You're right. It's not that we can just get out of our cars as much as we're trying to work on our public transit infrastructure. It's that we're not ready to have a green transition. And yet it's been years we've been talking about this. So to me, it is that governmental, every level, responsibility on what are you doing to actually transition to that cleaner energy. I don't want to scare people, but the gas prices are never going to go down to where they were before. I've done research where people have said, well, we'll just wait for $3. Just wait for $4. And, at the time I was like, that's not going to be anytime soon. Here we are approaching $2.50, right, at the top end. And that's within several months. So it's just coming out of a pandemic. So I'm sorry to say that I don't think oil and gas is going to be the answer here, in the sense that, they have their direction. So what is the government doing, larger scale, not just take off the gas tax for a little while. That's not going to solve the problem of, I need to drive to work. What am I driving? How do I fill up, right? If the infrastructure is not there for people, then it's just not going to happen. So we have to keep pushing our officials to say, what are you doing, short-term, long-term, to help provide individuals with that long-term solution so we don't find ourselves here next year talking about $3 gas.
Right.
Another thing I was going to say, like in Alberta, they have waived the gas taxes so that it could bring down a little bit so it's more manageable. Do you think our government in here could do that? Because 235 or 236 is regular gas. Not everybody puts regular gas in the car. I drive something that is 10, 20 cents more than that. So add that 20 cent on top of that. So do you think that our government can reduce that in here so that it gives a little bit break for people that are finding so difficult to put the gas in the car?
I think, that's something they would have to look into, obviously, how the budgeting works and how they'll have to kind of collaborate with other organizations where we're getting our fuels from. So it's kind of a hand-in-hand thing. Whether they're even possibly looking into that at this point, I do not know. But it's something definitely that they should be looking into. And also electrical vehicle-wise, like we need, I know we're headed that route, but how fast and how much growth is happening in that arena as well is something that we need to consider, and possibly as an alternative if gas prices are going to continue to climb like this.
I think it's a strategy, right? But let's make it clear, the math doesn't add up. It's not the taxes going up, right? It's the price of gas. So you can reduce that a little bit by removing the taxes, but the price of gas is still going to go up. So I think it's going to be a very limited impact, right? And I think bottom line, if we subsidize oil and gas more than we do anything else, it's getting money out of our pockets, just another way. So again, I want a larger systemic solution that I know is possible. Other countries are doing it. We seem to be very behind here in Canada.
Okay. The next thing about the grocery prices. The gallon of milk, which was $4.89, $5.29, it's about $7.99 now. And I don't know how people with one income or two income or three income family are able to keep up, because we still have, nothing has gone down, everything is gone up. Every grocery, the meat, everything is gone up. It's very, very difficult for a single parent or double parent or with both parents working to be able to put half decent food on the table for their family.
Yeah, and I agree with that. At the same time, again, it's, the pandemic put an effect on that, as well as the war out on the other side of the world. Different countries are having impact on our pricing here in various ways. And I think that's something that the government does need to take a look at, and how can we efficiently reduce these prices so that low-income families or middle-class families can afford a living here, because it is getting, even for professionals like us who, back in the day were considered somebody who makes a very good income, at this point are struggling, right? So it's becoming a point where despite two parents working and having that income come in, a couple having that income come in, or even a single individual who's making good money at this point is no longer considering themselves to be in that category. You definitely have to consider that.
Yeah, economic success is not how fast the stock market's going up or how much profits, Royal Bank made this year. Economic success is when families can afford to live. And I think it should be a human right, if it's not already, to think that cost of living, like that should be the bare minimum, that people should be able to afford what they need to live and healthy, not to screen, when you look at like income assistance and how low that is. People are in starvation basically trying to get back to work, right?
Yes.
So we're headed that way now for like two income working families, right? I'm part of the teachers union, the BCTF, and we're looking at a reality that our wages are not keeping up with COLA, it's called COLA, cost of living, at all. So that this is problematic, right? And so you're going to see a lot of unrest because a lot of professional unionized institutions are very worried that, you have you're working hard, you have the two incomes, you have the professional degrees, all of that, but you can't even survive, right? So, some things are impossible to change right now. The cost of wheat, the cost of this, like a lot of things are just through the roof, and you hope that it'll calm down over time, right?
Yeah, and the other aspect to that is seniors. Seniors are really struggling out there. That is one category that I feel very sort of have a sensitivity towards, because at this point, their retirement costs are way out roof compared to how much income they're getting in with their pensions and how much savings they may have through RRSPs and all of that. We're seeing an increased homelessness right now. So that is driving another factor with the nonprofits and other sort of funding that the government needs to be putting out there for individuals who cannot afford housing anymore, can't afford food anymore, can't afford the cost of living.
Okay. That's good.
Sorry, it's very heavy.
No. I think everybody need to hear that.
Yeah.
It's not we all are so frustrated thinking about that everybody is feeling that. The next thing I was going to talk about the shortage of the doctors and the nurses. And when this question was asked to Adrian Dix, our Minister of Health, and he said, "Oh, we have made more rooms for the nurses for at UBC or something." But yes, maybe you provided more room, but nurses not going to be trained overnight. Doctors who has to go through 8 to 10 years of education, it's not going to happen right now. People are leaving here to go down south where they are taken care of and given, and doctors, nurses, professionals. And you go to the hospitals, and the nurses, after 2 years under pandemic, they worked around the clock just because they wanted to, that the people were coming in, because that's their profession, and they felt under obligated. You are a nurse, you did that. But now we are out of pandemic. But then again, people are either leaving, either retiring, or quitting. As a profession who they thought they're going to be there, that's the best job with pension and everything, they can't handle no more. What do you say with the doctors and the nurses shortage in this province?
Right, and I agree to that because, I mean, this was a long time coming. It is not something new. It was pre-pandemic, right? BCNU and other unions out there have put it out there that nursing shortage is going to happen, and it's going to happen at a fairly high rate and quickly. Just because we have a lot of nurses who are retiring, we have a lot of nurses going off on mat leaves, we have a lot of nurses who are burnt out, and like you said, new graduates when they come into the profession, they may or may not. When you're doing schooling, it's very different than compared to when you're actually working the profession. Hands-on job, and so they may feel like, no, this is not the career for us. We've made the wrong move, and now we need to transfer out somewhere else, or even within internal departments, transferring within departments. When you realize, okay, this is not the category I want to work in, and I'd rather have sort of an expertise or go into a different department. So we're seeing a lot of domino effect where, nurses are switching around in their roles, and then you have shortage on the management side because there's not enough leadership or to that level of education. Some of the nurses have not done that yet. So, and then you're seeing education. So regardless, there's more classes opening up. We need more professors for the nurses themselves. So, you need the teaching background. So there's various reasons why we're facing that shortage, and also international. If we look at international nurses or doctors coming in who are not, now the government is indicating that there's going to be like a fast track, which we've been asking for a while. But then again, you have to be very careful with the fast track programs as well, because you need that clinical expertise behind your belt. Although their education may be up to par or close to, they still need to be comparatively working with the Canadian sort of regulations. So that's something that they have to consider as well. With the physician shortage, family practice, huge shortage right now.
Yeah.
Everybody sees that. There's walk-in clinics, urgent care centers opening up. But what about actual family practice where we need the family physicians, or we're seeing an increase in nurse practitioner jobs now because of that, right? So there's it's a domino effect, and I think it's, again, something that needs to be sat down with actual doctors, nurses, come up with solutions collaboratively with the government to try and determine where the needs are, how we can fill in those gaps, and make it so that it is at a very good clinical level at the same time.
I think she's the expert. The only thing I would add is that we have to maintain our universal healthcare system when we do that. Because I know some people have answers that say, well, then just get rid of universal healthcare, which I don't think is the answer at all. And secondly, that you talk about mental health, you talk about how that affects our like psychosomatic, kind of our physical body. Like so many Canadians are faced with like heart disease, all kinds of things, right? So I think that's part of it too. How do we prevent? How do we live healthier lives? I'm not putting that individually, but I think we're working ourselves to death. So we all need doctors, because it's that extreme all the time, and I wonder long term again if we can think about those realities. But in my understanding in Vancouver Island, like just it's not affordable to keep those clinics open. So how do we find a way to make sure that our doctors are well paid enough, that everything's taken care of? Because this is an emergency, essential service. We can't have these clinics just shut down.
No, and burnout is a huge factor, especially through the pandemic. A lot of graduates who came on board into nursing or the fields of physician, they didn't realize, because they've had to deal with it in, like you indicated, in a very much different manner than say 20 years ago when we became nurses or doctors. We came into the field and everything was normal. You walk in and you're just, you're a nurse. But here you're a nurse or a doctor in a pandemic, and that's made a huge difference because your burnout rate has gone up. You're working longer hours, and like the rate of pay is still there. Like we said, it hasn't increased for these people, and so therefore a lot of people leave the field accordingly as well, thinking, this is not worth my health, my own health, my mental health, my physical health, and in that aspect, although I'm here to take care of others.
Okay. So the next we'll touch a little bit more with the housing crisis. 1 bedroom suite or condo or something in Surrey is $1,800. 1 bedroom in Vancouver is about $2,800. We are the most expensive place to live. I know Vancouver was, but I didn't realize Surrey is too. With all these refugees coming into the country, with the refugees, the government are giving some money out to them. Maybe they may be able to afford it, but what about the ordinary people in here? Even you and me, if we're looking for a basement suite, can get nothing under $2,000, $1,800, family and all that. What kind of money you would be making to be able to accommodate that? And Surrey used to be the cheapest place to live. That's why 1,000 people move to Surrey every month. So now with the housing crisis in here, where do they go?
So again, it's looking at affordability of housing and how to conquer that, because at the end of the day, like you said, we have not only refugee families here, we have international students coming who are only allowed to work 20 hours a week. So how can you afford living 20 hours a week, yet you're doing schooling and everything else? We have domestic students, not just international students. Domestic students, say like my own child, afraid to move out at this point, even though they're old enough, they're in university and able to possibly after university move out. But these students are now saying that we may even leave this country because at this, or we may move to a different province. The way things are going, we aren't going to be able to afford our living out here, and we're going to have to look at other options, which is kind of sad because these people have all grown up here and now they're, not wanting to stay here because of these factors. At the same time, if you look at, again, I'm going to bring up seniors, I'm going to bring up others who are struggling at this point just to pay rent, just to pay their mortgages, just to pay certain pricing out there just in order to have a roof over their head, right? And that's where the increase of a homelessness comes in as well, is if you can't afford your house or you're having to sell it or give it away just because you have no income coming in or you have low income coming in, but the affordability is not there, then there's definitely, we need lots of options put out there. And I know there's lots of development happening right now within the city of Surrey and city of Vancouver and other places where there's, condos and high rises and townhomes coming in. But realistically, they're still not within the pricing that an average family can afford. Like, I mean, we're looking at a typical townhome that's like $800,000-900,000, right? Yeah. And we're looking at condos which are starting at $500,000-600,000. And so how are we supposed to afford this? Yeah.
you know, from the federal level to the provincial level to the municipal level, like all of this connects, right? And you see, so like labor shortages, well, think about affordability. And I don't know when affordability became a dirty word, because to me, as people, if you happen to own your own home or you have something that's a little bit more stable, why is it so hard to understand why the government maybe should be putting more funding, all kinds of ways, whether that's, again, federal, provincial, municipal, you know, zoning, into like blocks of affordable housing? Where are the developers really, you know, signing contracts, as it were, right, to promise that certain, you know, housing, and I mean affordable. Not, you know, when I hear things like the housing market is slowing down, I'm like, slowing down to what?
Yeah.
Like don't tell me 1.5 million is slowing down. That's not slowing down. That's just, you know, under the peak that you're pushing, right? So I don't see that actual, like, and again, I put it on all of us. I understand people want their property value because that's maybe their only investment. I understand that. But you talk about the price that it takes then to, you know, when you have homeless people and the needs they have, increase policing, increase this, increase that, all that money has to come from somewhere. And so your property value, like, isn't quite protecting you like you think you are. I really wish, like, again, it just seems to be, like, if it's affordable, there's something wrong with it. But this is what's emptying out our province. If we are too expensive to live, then most BCers will need to move.
Yes.
And then the people that are left here will not have the essential services they need. So this is very much like, very much an extreme crisis.
Yep.
And not just because I can't own my own home, but literally there is nowhere to live and nothing I make will be able to afford me some stability. We know housing first policies say very clearly, housing comes first.
Yeah.
When you have people coming out of addiction, when you have people coming out of poverty, the fact that you have a home is the number one solution, even to students, even to kids that need stability. I noticed that in my own school. Kids that are not stable at home, you see it affects them at school. It affects their mental health. So it's all tied together.
related.
Yeah, and you know, like, look, at the end of the day, billions more needs to be in. We need more federal input. We need to make sure that housing really is put at the forefront. And if that means that property values kind of go down a little bit, then so be it. But overall, our community, our society is going to be stronger and healthier for it.
Right, and I'm going to add on to that, like how Annie has brought up, you know, children that aren't as stable in school, and this is a domino effect, because if we're seeing increased gas prices, increased food prices, increased home prices, you know, families not being able to afford, or single parents not being able to afford, at the end of the day, they have to work more, and by working more, their children are becoming unstable. On the mental health side, on the physical health side, they're not being looked after as well. Just because the parent is at work all day long, how are they supposed to look after their child? And so these things are all a domino effect on our society at the end of the day. And same thing with parents, seniors. I mean, there's we have health authorities out there providing some, you know, some sort of care services, but at the end of the day, it's not enough, and it's not essential that the parent be kind of put in a spot where they have families looking after them, but then we have health authorities going in and out of the homes, but not on a sort of a more regulatory basis. What we're seeing is an essential need here. We're not seeing, we're just seeing essential services. We're not seeing a parent being taken care of to that level that they really need. And so that's where the private care services come in. It's all a big domino effect, whether it's seniors, whether it's children, whether it's mental health, whether it's housing, pricing, you know, everything has an effect on every level of government here.
And perhaps one last note is that housing has been commodified, meaning it's a moneymaker rather than what it used to be, which is I have a roof over my head. And I'm not saying people shouldn't invest in real estate, but at the same time, it's just become a big game. So for the people that have money, they can just pick up, sell, flip, do all these things. But the rest of us are kind of stuck with our one home, you know, and that's it. So that is also, it's like we're on a moving train and they keep adding fuel to it, but we need to get off. You know?
Right.
And so that's another issue. It's this you know, this idea that everything can be sold. Water can be sold, right? You know, like all these things can be sold. We need governments and people to say, no, housing is a human right. And everybody deserves to have quality housing that will ensure their mental, physical, you know, all their different health.
True. The last question Thank you. It's about municipal election coming on April the 15th.
October?
And,
October the
15th. What did I say, April? October
more
the
time.
15th, yes. So that is just a few months ago away. And when I'm looking at the Surrey is always so exciting. Surrey is so exciting. So there are more and more people throwing their name into the mayor's, running for the mayor. And I know we should maybe continue this next time. But, and right now the newest member I found is Ginny Sims is thrower. Had in the ring, and they're gonna be. This is not it. They're gonna be more people coming.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, between now and October, so much can happen, right?
Yes.
You'll see so many new names pop up and step up, and that's what's happened in previous elections as well. Is all of a sudden you see new candidates just putting their name out there because they feel strongly about certain issues and want to address those. And so I think it's like you said, Surrey is very entertaining, and what I find about Surrey is. Other people living in other municipalities are also always focused on Surrey for some reason, right?
Well, Surrey make the headline news everywhere.
Everybody cares now, yeah.
Everybody cares
Yeah.
about Surrey for some reason, but like...
To me, I'm not running for anything, so I can be very honest and open. I think there's a bit of a vacuum. There is, right? I think people, I live in Surrey, I'm a resident, we feel a little bit left behind, right?
Yes.
Council has been fractured. I'm not gonna get political, just like whatever, right? I mean, there's a sense that it hasn't been as smooth as it should have been, right? So I think there are a lot of people with a lot of experience, like there's quite a few names out there. You go, wow, this person has done multiple things at multiple levels, which is good to see. I hope to see new names. I hope to see, I know there are some young folk running, which is really exciting because they always have fresh ideas. I want people to vote. That's the bottom line. I want people to take the time. You talk about everybody working and having to afford, right? So like, who's gonna find the time? But to be honest,
you have to find the time.
You have to find the time because that's the only way you actually resolve some of these issues. And the louder we are about what we need, the more they have to listen. And so it is slate based in Surrey a lot. I would argue, as much as I know quite a few people that are running, vote for the people that you truly believe in. Because here, we had a slate go in, and they fell apart. So I don't know. I can't speak to the idea that the slate always works, right? But there are a lot of wonderful people running that can absolutely make change. And look to them and really ask those questions. And don't be afraid to ask those questions either, right? We need to push them a little bit. And it goes beyond policing. It goes beyond, any one big issue.